bringing you the absolute best stories across the ag industry. You're now tuning into How I Built This Ag Business, an original series by AgSwag.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of How I Built This Ag Business. Today we're on here with Harlan Asmus, Amy Asmus, and Garrett Asmus with Asmus Farm Supply. Since 1960, Asmus Farm Supply has been a family-owned independent ag retailer in northern Iowa that provides crop protection, plant nutrition, seed, and seed treatment. Now they're serving Iowa, Minnesota, and South Dakota. And with that, I'd like to welcome you guys to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with Harlan. How exactly did this business get started? From what I understand, your dad started it.
Yeah, an entrepreneurial visionary father in the late 50s, graduated college, wanted to come back to the home farm and improve agriculture by means of using synthetic pesticides.
Okay. And he, I saw somewhere in there, he kind of had a vision in the 60s, and then he transitioned the business kind of in the 70s to what you guys are today.
The initial customers of the company in the 60s would have been single location cooperative elevators, and he was serving more as a distributor in those days, and then turned the focus to self-applied growers, our current farm customers that do their own work yet today, for the customer of focus.
And then what did he was he on the crop protection side mainly?
Crop protection to start with, and then brought in a seed brand in 1964.
Okay, cool. And what was that?
That was Pioneer in 64.
Pioneer. And you guys are still with them, right?
We are.
Cool. And then I saw a quote on, so your dad kind of did things a little bit differently. I think you might have said it in an interview, but like your father started the business around improving new technologies that weren't widely accepted during the time. What kind of was that all about? I guess what was he doing new that everyone else wasn't?
Yeah, using synthetic pesticides would have been the main change back then. And that was new for most folks, so it was their learning curve of the time.
And then when did you get started in the business?
1987.
1987. And then were you the first employee besides your dad, or?
So I grew up in the business as a kid. It's all I ever knew, but 87 would have been when I graduated from Iowa State after a 4-year degree.
All right. And then how did you guys meet, you and Amy?
We met in college at a fraternity sorority party.
Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Dated for a couple of years, got married after we graduated college, and she came to Northern Iowa.
Nice. And then so you came back and worked for the business. Did she work for the business as well?
Amy can start with that comment.
So my background, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design, and the closest thing I came to ag before I came back with Harlan was the corn crop in my backyard. And so it was a big learning curve for me. We had a couple kids. I couldn't really go back to college. The business kept growing. And so it was kind of like quicksand, suck me in. So I I've learned on the fly, used the CCA program and their performance objective protocols to learn what I needed to learn to be an agronomist, and came into the business when Garrett was probably about 5 or 6.
So that would be about 2000 to 2002 is when she would have committed full-time to the company.
Nice. And then what the business look like when you started? And then how did it kind of transition? Like, what did you come back to the farm or to the business and the farm with new ideas, or kind of kept going with what you were going with and gradually grew? Or
so Harvey would have been a single location retailer in 87 when Amy and I came back, considered a very large company at the time. But he was the only salesperson. He had one warehouse guy. Every customer came to our one location in Northern Iowa to pick up their products. So Amy and I brought in more precision technology type information and knowledge, and started branching out with different locations in the year 2000 and different departments within the company to get to where we're at today.
Nice. And then how many locations you guys have right now?
5.
5. Nice. What was the first one you guys opened? You said 2000. Where was that at?
2005 would have been a company-owned location opened in Esterville, Iowa.
So we have 5 company-owned locations, but we also have commission sites. So they're like seed dealers or feed dealers that also want to provide crop protection, plant nutrients, seed. They usually have their own seed vendor, but they want to provide more to their growers. So we have 13 of those locations that are commission site. And the first one Harlan's talking about was actually a commission location and
Yep.
not brick and mortar for AFS. So that was in Bancroft, Iowa.
Okay. And then what was like the first brick and mortar like location you guys opened? How was that whole experience? Was that something you guys went and took over, or did you hire someone to do that, or?
So that was 2005. We hired a salesperson. He worked out of his truck for the first year till we could find some infrastructure around him. We bought an existing site, added on to it, remodeled it, surrounded him with more employees. We've since added on to that site one more time, and we bought a property to the north or next to our site and a large warehouse there. So that site's grown dramatically since 2005.
And what were like, I guess, what are some of like the biggest like pitfalls you guys could like tell our listeners on opening up another location in ag retail? Because I'm sure that probably wasn't an easy process. Was there any big obstacles you guys overcame, or?
I would say it was easier back then than now. Now the challenge is finding qualified help.
Yeah.
There wasn't that problem 20 years ago.
That's our problem. I would agree. That is definitely our problem. Finding them and keeping them, that's, I don't know. It has definitely become tough for sure, to say the least.
It's kind of a generational thing.
Yeah.
If I want to generalize, older is easier to find, easier to keep than younger. But that's not always the case either. There's good young people too.
Yeah, no, I agree, but definitely difficult.
But I think that's the key to a new location. When we're looking at new locations, we don't like map out where our locations are and say, okay, we have a gap in here, let's throw a store in here. Really, we're a family company, so it starts with family and it starts with people and how we care for the people. So you really have to have a person in place and build a location around that to get it started, instead of just throw up a building, put up a sign and say, we're here for all who want to come. It's really a people-based business. And I think most family businesses are based on their people and not on their locations in their buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell my son that a lot. We traded, so I was a trader for a number of years in Chicago and New York, and I always tell everybody it's big difference between a publicly traded company and a privately held company. The publicly traded company, like you said, has to go out and show frontline growth all the time, has to put a new store up, in specific locations. And sounds like you guys look for the right person. And if you find the right people, then maybe you'll do a deal or build something and infrastructure around them. And like you said, started adding employees, adding infrastructure. I like that model. That's a great model.
Whether we're talking company-owned stores or commission locations that we agree to sign a contract with, it always starts with people.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. Harlan has a sign on his wall, and I quote it quite a bit when I'm in the industry. I think it came from Traction, which is a business book, but it's bigger is not better. Better is better. And so sometimes that growth doesn't make you better, just makes you bigger. So we work on that concept that we want to be better, not just bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
And then are you guys actively like seeking new people, or kind of just when you come across them, or?
For new locations,
Yeah, for new locations and things like that.
we get opportunities annually with people that approach us. So then we start vetting them out to decide yes or no. So that happens more often than us blindly going out in the market and finding somebody.
Yeah, probably a little easier that way. I guess we'll when did you get started in the business, Garrett?
I started in the business in 2016.
Nice. Did you work with your mom and dad growing up, or?
Yeah, in colleges, the last 3 years of college, I came back and worked on the farm and in the business over the summer.
Nice. And then where did I guess what's your position now with the business?
So my position right now is business analyst. So I clean up data and I'm building our data set for future, computer growth and all of that changes that are coming.
Nice. Is that what you've been doing since you started, or did you start in the lab?
I've kind of moved around a few places, but that's really where I kind of found my foothold and stayed.
And you have a brother, or?
Yep, yeah, I have an older brother and an older sister.
Nice. Do they work with the business, or?
Neither of them are in the business right now.
Nice. Lone wolf.
Yep.
All by yourself. Cool. So what things, I guess, have you brought to the business since being out of school?
Most of it would be the data analytics part. When I came back, it was a lot of spreadsheets that were manual entry just for random, things we were watching in the business. And so when I came back, I kind of made a small step. So we were using more like VLOOKUPs or tables to kind of, gather the data quicker. And then a few years ago, we started playing with business intelligence called Tableau. And so now we have live reports that are generated either daily or weekly that we can look at, so we don't have to go manually pull the data.
Yeah. So more like on the automation side of things.
Yep.
Yeah. Has that helped like hire new employees or help retaining employees, or?
A lot of what I work with
customers?
is like inventory, or it's kind of on the back end, not on the front end.
Yeah.
Right. He's kind of shy about bragging, so I can be his mom and brag about him. But a lot of what he does leads into a lot of operational efficiencies. And so, he's worked his way up, he's been in the warehouse, he's done a lot of the operational jobs. And so when he looks at the data, he's very good at transferring that to operational efficiencies to apply to the business.
What's your saying, Garrett? If a
If a computer can do it, a human shouldn't.
Yep, that's the future.
So how much warehouse space do you guys have?
Between the 5 locations, we would have acres. I guess I don't really even know that number. The one statistic I can share from the crop protection department, of which I manage, is 2 years ago, we surpassed 1 million gallons of bulk pesticide storage between those 5 locations. And so bulk product distribution is important for us for multiple reasons, but also it's one of the efficiencies that we can implement in working with manufacturers to get product to our locations to prepare for the next season.
And are you
What,
guys?
what,
Go ahead,
what,
Dan.
what, yeah, Harlan, what type of headwinds do you see in the industry with the whole Go Green movement politically? And, what type of shift are you guys having to make, or are you, or do you think how long before that plays out?
So we're a 4-department company, and I spend the majority of my time in crop protection. So my comments will be based on that, but I'm not seeing a lot of change yet or willingness at the customer level to adopt a more biopesticide mentality. There aren't many of those products available yet. I hope they come because we're experiencing pyrethroid resistant soybean aphids now. And wouldn't it be nice if I had something so out of the box, so different that we've never used before, like a biopesticide for soybean aphids to recommend and to implement in our program to help stave off some resistance.
So just as your dad picked up the newest chemicals on the pesticide side, you guys are you're looking at that every day and trying to be leaders.
Yes.
I'm at the forefront of that. But I'm with you. We're not, in our world too, we're not seeing a lot of customer or clients that are really super eager to jump on and try a lot of new things. But I hopefully, like you said, hopefully there'll be some products come out that can change that or make things move in that direction in a little quicker pace. So
really what Amy and I have accomplished through our career and what we'll even transfer to third generation with Garrett is this continual improvement. Some of it is forced on us by change, but some changes we're implementing to stay ahead of change. And that's what keeps you innovative and appealing at the customer level.
Right.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of partners in the industry. I happen to be chair of the Ag Retailers Association board right now. So that afforded me the opportunity to go down to Brazil and talk to a lot of ag retailers in Brazil. And right now, Brazil is the country that has the highest adoption of the biologicals. So it was interesting for us to look at other markets and other countries to see how they're creating demand for the new greener products and moving on. So, we don't just put our head down and work in our 5 stores. We're very much involved in the industry and like to look at other countries and bring some of the insight that they have as to why they're adopting it or why they wouldn't adopt it in their country, and seeing what's applicable in the US.
And then are you guys doing anything on the biological side now or tried anything?
We have a process to bring new things to the market, which starts in a demo plot type testing on family ground here. It's small scale trials. We move that into what's called first to the field, which are about 35 progressive growers that are always looking for the next thing. And 6 to 7 projects a year are presented to that group of farmers, and they're all participating in 1 or 2 at times to vet out the things that passed our demo trial grading system. And then once it passes first to the field, we're very confident to be able to sell it to the rest of the customer base.
So what's passed in the last 5 years? Has there been much pass on the trial side that you guys have vetted?
It's more difficult to make biological products work consistently, which has led us to believe that placement is going to be more important than blanket application. Of course, depending on the brand and depending on what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's a plant growth regulator or stress mitigator or a nutrient availability type of, they're all 3 different types of biologicals there. So we're going to focus more in the future on placement for success than give me an 80 to split it in half, do 40 and 40 and see what happens type concept.
Right. The great thing we learned from our first to the field is, it's great if something passes our muster the first time around, but we get to look at it. And so we get to see where it fails as well, to see if we're doing something wrong or if it's failing on its own or if we're using it differently. So the first to the field, we don't always judge by winning and losing. We judge by the amount of information we can garner from those trials and then Sometimes we tweak them, sometimes we drop them. So it's kind of a fun little thing. Each of our agronomists are in charge of one of 4 or 5 different trials we do every year. So gets the agronomist involved as well in a little bit of research.
Oh, and what would you guys say like separates you from a lot of other ag retailers, like the one man band ag retailers, the single location ag retailers? It seems like you guys put a lot of like emphasis and time behind your agronomy team. Is that probably one of the main reasons you guys think you've scaled to this size?
Yeah, we couldn't have been successful without knowledgeable people at our side. We continually need to cultivate their knowledge. They need to continue to have the innovative spirit, but it's with our group of our talented agronomists that does set us apart from some of our competition. Some of our competition is as good as we are at that as well. So we look to other business processes and efficiencies, that might start in Garrett's office and be forwarded across the company to set us apart in the way we operate.
Yep. A lot of people focus on their agronomy team because that's their revenue generators. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out to our operations teams as well. Those are some of the people that are the last people a grower sees when they come to visit us. So although I would put our agronomy team up against anybody, I say that in the industry because I think I have a pretty great team. The operations team has to equal that, and we try to keep them working on the same level we expect from our agronomists with knowledge and professionalism.
And are you guys delivering to the farm a lot of like on the operation side, or are a lot of people picking stuff up?
We do both. There's a mix of both.
How's the logistics side of the business? Would you say you're more in a logistics business than a chemical business, or?
Logistics aren't that hard, Garrett. You'd say that's not a real difficult thing, is it?
No, we have a really good manager for that, and he keeps on top of it.
I think what sets us apart, to go back to your other question, is we are committed to and focused on representing name brand products in the marketplace. So the number of manufacturers that would play in that category, or we would be willing to play with them, is many, many fewer than in the 60s when my father started. But they are companies committed to research, to bring innovation to the farm economy, to help growers to continue to raise more crop. And that's where our commitment lies. As Amy mentioned earlier, we have excellent partners, and those would be amongst some of our best partners in the crop protection side, but also plant nutrition and seeds and seed treatments as well. So we're committed there. And that also means then we're not committed to distributing generic brands. Although we have them, it's not where our first conversations start, and that's the way our agronomy team thinks and focuses.
And then does all your agronomy team, do they farm as well? Do they own farms, or some do, some don't?
Quite a few. Are we about a 50-50 split?
Yeah, because it's kind of seemed like you guys aren't just like selling to sell on your products.
Oh, no.
You're like a lot of the agronomy team, like they really believe in the product. It's something they're actually using on their farm. Is that true?
That's true. That's one of the things the growers like. They come in and say, "Hey, what'd you use last year? How'd that work for you?"
Carries a lot of weight.
Does give them a bit. We're a little unique in the fact that we do not do a lot of custom application. The custom application we do is seed treatment. So in the fall, when people are in the field, our guys are not applying fertilizer or doing fall applications or out and about. with the growers. They might be in the combine just seeing how it works, but for the most part, they're not hugely occupied with the business of Asmus Farm Supply. And so we can afford to allow them to go and work on their own farms and do that. I don't see that as time away from AFS, but as a great educational experience that they can bring back to the business and help our growers.
Yeah, makes sense. Is there any like just trying to help, like, this is the podcast is called How I Built This Ag Business, and a lot of people listening are trying to build ag businesses, but like, has there been any like ideas you guys have had along the way that maybe didn't work out? Like, I thought this was going to be a good idea and it just didn't turn out as planned, or
Did you ever do custom? Is that something
No,
you ever
our
did?
custom applications contracted with applicators that are in that business, and they don't want to deal with pesticide regulations and inventory and all that. So we cover that side of it. They take care of the application, makes for very good relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Especially with our grower base, they're growers that self-apply. And nowadays, bigger is better when they get to equipment. And so they go out and buy a big piece of equipment and they go, wait, my sprayer, and I got some extra time. I can run over a few more acres than just mine. So some of them make those arrangements as well.
Harlan, line one. Harlan, line one.
Yeah,
Yes, you won't be getting that call.
No. Yeah, I like that thought. I could see that, being an interesting play, not because we know a lot of ag retailers that are, they also do custom, and it seems like that can be a killer to them at times. So yeah, I think that's a smart move.
So I'm still thinking about your question, Jordan. Have we started something that hasn't worked out? And I can honestly say, no, I'm not in a big way. Before we commit to doing something, adding a department, let's say, for instance, to the company, it's pretty well vetted out.
Yeah.
So
So-
there hasn't been a huge failure.
Right. I would say, we know what our business is, we know what our customer is, and we know what we want to accomplish. And when we do commission sites, we vet them out because of course they're representing our name and our family business without being directly employees of ours. And we have over the years figured out that there are some geographies that just don't fit into the Asmus model. And instead of changing who we are, we hold strong to who we are and just close those locations or choose not to work in that geography. And so I can think of a couple where it was a struggle. They wanted to just sell generics and move stuff out at a cheap price, or just wanted to sell to their friends and didn't really invest in being a retailer. They just wanted to be a friend to some of their seed customers. So I would say in things where we've had difficulties in, or we have discontinued doing, is more in different geographies that have different mentality about what's the best way to produce crops.
Yeah. It's kind of like Jordan, I had some friends that were early and started a Quick Trip, and their original model was they're just going to have 500 companies or 500 locations. And that's what they built up to. And then each year they would open new locations, but then close the bottom 10, what I'm saying? They would crunch their data. Those 10 were out and try add the new ones. And I always like that model. So yeah, similar to what you're saying.
yeah. Is there any maybe on a lighter note, is there any like good stories you guys want to share with us, or maybe stories to when Garrett was little of him working out on the farm? Or
I could tell one story. He'll just laugh. We were working out on the farm and they were up in the haymound. Harlan was gone on a hunting trip, so it was just me alone with 3 kids. And I told him, stay away from the edge of the haymound, stay away from the edge of the haymound. not too much longer, Garrett falls out of the hay mound. He's about 5 years old. And so I run over, he didn't hit the water, landed not too far from it, but didn't hit it. But this is a statement to the family aspect of our business, because I had to run through Lake Mills on the way to the hospital to take him to get checked out. I had 2 other small children, and I called one of our warehouse guys. Hey, I'm going to be going right by your house. I'm dropping Aaron and Holden off. I got to take Garrett to the hospital. And I did. Dropped him off. He took care of him. He fed him pizza. They had a great time. We went to the hospital and Garrett didn't break anything major. And so swung back through and picked up the other kids on the way home. So, you know,
Good.
he never listened to me then. Hopefully he listens to me now as he works into the business.
Yeah. Harlan, you still hunt much?
Less than I used to. One thing our staff is noticing, I just had a conversation with one of our longtime sales guys here just the other day about this. It used to be not too long after the 4th of July, we were done tending to the crop. And here we are today, the 5th of September, and we just had people spraying for bugs yet a few days ago. Wow, the season just never ends. And so I found myself to be busier and don't hunt as much.
Yeah.
So maybe that's for the retirement years.
Yeah. How's the work-life balance that we all hear so much about? You know, we own several businesses too, and look at Harlan. And my wife and I work together, and Jordan and his wife work, you know, and it's tough. And Jordan just got married a year ago, and I told him, I said, hey, you need to forewarn her. I mean, our family, I mean, that's what we do is work, and that's all we've really known. And, you know, we work, we get together for dinner, and hell, we're talking about work half the time. So it's like, you know, how is it for you guys?
I don't know if that's a young generation slogan or what.
Exactly. I'm with you.
I wasn't raised that way. You just work when you work and probably play harder when you play, and you know that everything works out in the end. It's not about 8 hours a day. That's what I'd say about somebody that's trying to open a retail location. It's 24 hours a day. And if you're not committed to that, your customer will sense that, and you won't be able to grow like you could have.
Right. I'll just throw in the if you love what you work, you never work a day in your life. And I think around ag, that's how we grew up. You grew up loving the lifestyle. You grew up loving what you did. And it doesn't seem like work every day. Yes, there are times when you have to go out, and I went over the PN building and they were cleaning out their drain trays and getting ready for the season, and that's work. Nobody can enjoy shoveling sludge out of a drain, but most of the days it's just fun, and we love working with our customers. They're our friends. So if you enjoy what you do, it doesn't seem like you're working 24/7. You're just living the life you chose to live.
Yeah. Jordan, I think you can see the why they're successful. I mean, it's pretty glaring. Have a great work ethic, not afraid to work, like they're saying, and great business acumen. I mean, I tip my hat to all the things. It sounds like you guys really focus in and hone in on building a great business, whether it's from onboarding the customers, customer retention, you know, how you can, you know, build out those channels with Garrett, and the data crunching and looking at all your various channels and the profitability models. And yeah, really tip my hat. In the ag businesses, we've learned, and I used to consult for a lot of other businesses across the board, but it seemed like when we would get deeper into some of the ag, you know, there wasn't a ton of business acumen, as I'm hearing coming from both of you. It sounds like you've done your due diligence, studied business a lot, read a lot, learned a lot, and you know, really built a great business model. And I think, Jordan, that's, if you're willing to work hard and you're willing to study and learn proper business, you know, modeling, I think, hey, you guys are the answer. So
yeah, be patient. Things will work out. If you've put forethought into venturing into something new. Be patient. We're not the type of personal family. We're not the type of business that will throw things at the wall and not be afraid to fail. And just, try all kinds of things. No, we put more thought into it. Now we will fail once in a while, and that's fine. We're willing to accept fail because that's what risk is about. But we're not the kind of company that'll go off on the deep end and try all kinds of weird things.
Right. We do, Garrett's the third generation, and you know what they say about the third generation? They always screw up their grandpa's business.
Yeah.
So we're putting a lot of thought now into, how do we transfer successfully to that third generation? And I'm just going to toss it over to Garrett a second and let him tell you about the group that he works with at UNI, University of Northern Iowa, that has a family business succession group, and who's in that group and what he learns from doing that. Because I think it's important, if you build a business, you have to build the future of the business as well. So we have to do this the right way. So Garrett, you want to talk a little bit about the groups that you work with?
Yeah, so
at
it's the
UNI?
UNI Family Business Center. They focus on family businesses in Iowa. And the particular group I'm a part of, they call the next gen. So it's the next generation. And I don't know if I can name any by name, but there's various businesses in Iowa that are all family owned, and the next generation of leaders is in my group. And we just meet once a month. It follows the school year for UNI, so they take off 3 months in the summer. But we just meet once a month and talk to each other, throw around different ideas. Sometimes there's topics, but a lot of times it's just kind of a group where you can, talk about your struggles or ask people, because there's, big businesses all the way down to small businesses in there. And then, so there's, usually someone in there has experience with what you're going through. And then there are also other groups in there. So like there's a generation that is the now generation, and they're the ones running the company. And then there's a legacy generation, which are the ones that probably still own the company but don't run it. And they have guest speakers every other month. And so it's a really good group to be a part of. Lots of resources.
Yeah, why do you think a lot of like third generations don't make it in business, Garrett? Do you think, from like what you've seen in the group, maybe is it like they just don't, like the third generation doesn't really show interest and they're kind of forced into it and don't care?
Hopefully it's not like pushing the, everyone always, it's never anyone's fault, but a lot of the businesses in the group are very successful, and I think it's because they've done the planning and the research to transition it. The main thing I could kind of probably pick out would, some of it, it could also fall on the second generation, because the first generation started it from nothing. Usually it's probably not very big when the second generation gets it. So it's easy for them to grasp the business because there's not a lot of moving parts. And then by the time the third generation is given it, it's a lot bigger and there's a lot more moving parts and it's a lot more complicated. And there probably isn't much leadership or guidance from the second generation to the third generation. And they just kind of say, okay, here it is. And like I said, it's a lot more complicated. When Dad came back, it was one employee, him and his dad, and one location. And when I came back, it was, dozens of commission sites and 5 owned locations. And I think it was like in between 30 and 40 employees. And so there's a lot more moving parts in that compared to when he came back.
And do you like come back from these meetings like and get with your dad like, hey, we need to start thinking about this stuff, or coming up with ideas on like, hey, I know we're trying to transition this business. I think we might need to start thinking about this or.
Some of the things, yeah, it comes into the succession planning that we do as like a family.
Okay.
I think, hey, that's Garrett, that's probably one of the most well articulated responses I've heard from the third generation type of play. Don't you agree, Joe? I mean, most of the time, I'll just tell you, Garrett, most of the time, the responses are coming from us, the old guys. And just like you said, typically our responses are, well, younger generation just doesn't have as much work ethic, or they're just not as interested in it as we were, or maybe something like that. I think that was a great response. And I think, a lot of the listeners need to really probably zero in on that, because what you said makes a ton of sense. I mean, a lot more moving parts and pieces, probably some failure on our end as the old folks just, oh, you just jump right in here and you'll be fine, figure it all out. We don't do a very good job of training some of the, like I said, that third generation. I can see that a lot, Jordan, can't you? I mean, really what
Yeah,
he said.
and the second generation comment made a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard that before, and like looking at our business, like I'm second generation, so I mean, when I joined with you, I mean, yeah, like Garrett said, there
wasn't
there wasn't a lot going on. Like, yeah, there was some stuff going on. You worked hard, but like, dude, get in there and figure it out. Like there's nothing else for you to do but figure something out. And now that I'm second generation, I'm building stuff. We have way more moving pieces now. I don't think for the
you
third
tell that to your son. Yeah, that would be
my
a problem.
son in 20 years, because he's about to be born in December. I don't think I can just say, jump on in here and figure it out, dude. Like it's a legit business now. Like he's got how to run a business.
Yeah, Garrett, that's a great response. So like I said, we rarely hear that anywhere, and that's why I just tip my hat. That's everybody needs to think that through a little bit more on what. I just don't think we hear from enough younger people who are in successful ag businesses and what their role is and how they also need help and see things playing out. So yeah, I tip my hat. Great job.
So tell me a little bit more about your guys' succession planning meetings you guys have. Is that like once a month, once a quarter, once a year?
Amy, you do that.
Amy. Yeah.
I'm like going, you do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of reactionary. So when we think of something, we talk about it, and because it was so reactionary and not purposeful, we actually hired a third party, People Spark, and they are talking through the business, where we want to go, where we've been, what the roles of the family members should look like. So we're actually working with a third party group that has opened my eyes, probably Harlan's and Garrett's as well, as to what actually goes into a succession plan and how you hand it off. Now with Harlan, he took over a business from his father. With Garrett, he has a dad who's successful in the business, running crop protection, retail. He has a mom who is a force in the industry, works with government regulations, works with different stakeholders. And then you're going from two strong leaders back to one. And so how are we going to handle that? Because in a family business, I know my mentality was it has to be family at the top. And when you get to a position where we're putting Garrett into, does it have to be family at the top, or does Garrett just have to be able to wrangle all the parts and then turn over some leadership to people whose last name aren't Asmus? And so we've kind of gone from the informal succession planning to a very formal process. And then once we get through the process and figure out what we need for the flow chart of the work that needs to get done, then we have to think of succession not only within the family, but within the family of employees as well, and who's the right person in the right chair.
Yeah, and kind of to go off of that, a lot of the planning for now is moving me into a position or into a role where one day it won't just be to our employees, okay, he's now your boss, and like it's a hard turnover. It's slowly easing me into roles where, like I said, it should be a smoother transition for the employees. So it's not just a hard switch over one day, and they may not respect their leader then. That's, a lot of emphasis we're focusing on now.
Yeah, so
And
what,
it seems like too, your folks are letting you find where you fit into the business, and you can add some serious strength to the business. And that way the other people are seeing that, you're adding strength and you are improving the business and the business model and by what you're doing on the computer side and the data science side. So yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah, makes sense to me. So, do you have any other questions for him, Dad, or?
No, I think that, I mean, heck, well, what a model to look at. I mean, they've built a heck of a business, and like I said, we've heard of you guys throughout the Midwest many different times, and Jordan had said he was going to do a podcast, and I thought that'd be great. So yeah, we sure appreciate it.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, was there anything else you guys wanted to share or talk about before we're done, or we cover it all?
No, I just thanks for what you guys do. We kind of all have our own little niche, and in ag, I find that people don't toot their own horn as much as they maybe deserve. And so for your family to come and pick out successful businesses and actually talk about it and put it out there is also a great service for those of us that put our head down in the industry and just do our job. I think ag is really a culmination of a lot of stakeholders and a lot of different things. So I just want to say thanks to you guys for the part that you play in ag as well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I end on a little story. Jordan's heard it 9 million times. I had a coach once ask me, you got a job to go build the biggest building in town. How do you do it? There's two ways. You can go around and tear everyone else's building down, and then yours is the biggest. Or you can go around and help everybody build their building. And then when it's time to build yours, people come and help you build your building. So I told Jordan, ag has done a lot for our family, myself and our family. And we're heavily invested in ag, from feedlots to ethanol plants to you name it. And we just wanted to give back a little bit. And like you said, show some appreciation to those who have put in hard work and built family businesses in ag, and show the other people, the younger kids who are trying, that here's a path and here's a successful model, and here's a great family that has built something worthwhile. So, we think it's a win-win for everyone, and hopefully you guys, we see that as well. So thanks again. Jordan, Harlan.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you need anything ever from us, give us a shout, and we'd love to help you guys any way we can. Garrett, same with you as well. So
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you guys taking the time. Means a lot.
Let us know when it'll be published or aired.
Okay,
sure.
yeah, that'll work. See you
Thank
guys.
you.
all right, have a good night.
Bye.
Yep,
Bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.